Tatiana froze at the director's office door, absent-mindedly fiddling with a button on her blazer. In all 5 years at the House of Fashion and Style, she had only been called to Viktor Andreevich's office twice, once when she was hired and once when she was promoted to deputy chief accountant. Why now? Tatiana Sergeyevna, come in. A confident voice came from the other side of the door. She took a deep breath and stepped into the spacious office. Viktor Andreevich, a tall man with distinguished gray hair at his temples, stood by the window. Have a seat, he said, nodding toward a leather chair. We need to talk. Tatiana sat down, feeling her knees tremble. Oh God, could this be a layoff? Or did they find some mistake in my reports? She thought. I've been watching your work for a long time, the director began, pacing around the office. Your dedication to the company, professionalism, and sense of responsibility are all outstanding. You know that Marina Viktorovna is retiring in a month. Tatiana's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? I've decided to appoint you as the chief accountant of the House of Fashion and Style. Well, what do you say? She felt tears of joy welling up in her eyes. She had dreamed of this position for so many years. Viktor Andreevich, I don't even know what to say. Thank you for your trust. You've earned this promotion. Tomorrow we'll complete all the paperwork. And the salary, as you understand, will be appropriate for the position. When she left the director's office on shaky legs, Tatiana practically flew into her best friend Alla's office. Alla. She threw her arms around the startled colleague. I got promoted. I'm the chief accountant now. Tatiana, are you serious? Her friend squealed with excitement. I'm so happy for you. You've dreamed about this for so long. The women hugged, and Tatiana finally let her tears flow. Can you imagine it? All these years I hoped, worked like crazy, and now it finally happened. Suddenly, Alla became serious. Sorry for asking this, but how will Gina react? He's always seemed to be against your job. Tatiana waved the concern away. Oh, come on. He only grumbles for show. In reality, he's always supported me. Are you sure? Alla raised an eyebrow skeptically. How many times has he said he wants you to stay home, take care of the house, and have children? He has a pretty obvious dislike for career-driven women. That's not serious. He understands how important my work is to me. Her friend thoughtfully tapped a pen against the desk. I don't think so. I have a different opinion. You know what? Let's find out which one of us is right. What do you mean? Tell him you got fired. Let's see his reaction. If he's genuinely upset, then tell him the truth and surprise him with the news about your promotion. And if he's happy about it? Tatiana frowned. I don't know, Alla. It feels wrong to deceive my husband. But then you'll know exactly what he really thinks, her friend insisted. Tatiana, you're the one who says he supports you. If you're so sure, then what's the problem? Let's test it. Tatiana remained silent, biting her lip. On one hand, the idea felt wrong. On the other, somewhere deep inside, there really was a doubt about her husband's sincerity. All right, the woman said with a determined nod. I agree. We'll find out tonight. That's better. Alla smiled with satisfaction. Call me afterward and tell me everything. I will. Tatiana stood up. I should get back to work. I still have so much to finish before the end of the day. As she left her friend's office, she had no idea what events this seemingly innocent decision would set in motion. That evening, she stood in front of the hallway mirror, practicing a sorrowful expression on her face. Furrowed brows, downturned lips, and a lifeless look in her eyes. Yes, it looked convincing enough. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her pounding heart. The thought of deceiving her husband, even for a short time, filled her with guilt. Oh, it's nothing serious, she reassured herself. Just a little test. I'll explain everything afterward. Maybe we'll even laugh about it together. The sound of a key turning in the lock made her flinch. Here it is. The moment of truth. Hi, sweetheart. Gina called cheerfully as he entered the apartment. How was your day? Tatiana barely managed to suppress a smile. Her husband was in a great mood and carrying a bouquet of wildflowers, her favorite. These are for you. He handed her the flowers and kissed her on the cheek. Oh? Did something happen? You look so sad. Looks like the act is working, Tatiana thought. Gina, we need to talk, she said in a trembling voice. Please sit down. Her husband frowned and sat on the couch. Tatiana sat beside him, nervously twisting the edge of her blouse. I got fired today, she forced out, staring at the floor. A silence followed. She glanced at him from beneath her brows. Gina looked surprised and confused. She couldn't quite read the expression on his face. You got fired? On what grounds? He asked. At last. Staff reductions, Tatiana lied, feeling her cheeks grow hot. Suddenly, Gennady wrapped an arm around her shoulders and pulled her close. Darling, don't worry. Everything will be fine. Maybe this is even for the best. For the best? She asked tensely. Well, think about it. How many years have you worked yourself to exhaustion for that company? 5. And what did you get in return? Constant stress, lack of sleep, migraines. Maybe this is a sign that it's time to change direction. Tatiana remained silent, trying to understand what really lay behind his words. You need to rest right now and recover, Gina continued, gently stroking her back. Then you can do something you truly enjoy. Remember how you said you wanted to teach accounting courses? Or. He hesitated for a second. Maybe it's time for us to think about having a child. You're already 34, Tanya. Time is passing. Everything inside Tatiana turned cold. So this is what he really wants. For me to lose my job and become a housewife, she thought bitterly. And how exactly do you imagine that? She asked sharply. What are we supposed to live on? Well, I have a decent salary. And you'll receive severance pay. Besides, nobody's saying you should never work again. You can just find something calmer, without all the stress and emergencies. Right now, the important thing is not to rush into any decisions. Rest and sort out your thoughts. Tatiana felt irritation growing inside her. Her husband spoke softly and kindly, but hidden in his words she clearly heard. At last, you'll stop building a career and focus on the family. I'm going to the store, she suddenly said. Of course, Gennady replied with a pleased smile. Maybe buy a bottle of wine? We can celebrate the beginning of a new life. Tatiana wanted to scream that there would be no new life, that she had received the promotion she had dreamed of for years. But no. First she needed to calm down and think everything through. All right, she nodded and quickly left the apartment. As she walked down the stairs, she immediately called Alla. Alla, you were right, she said, her voice shaking with hurt. He's happy. He really wants me to stay home and have children. Tanya, calm down, her friend said anxiously. Maybe he was just trying to support you. Men sometimes express sympathy awkwardly. What sympathy? He suggested celebrating the beginning of a new life. Tatiana was on the verge of tears. God, how blind I've been all these years. All right, pull yourself together. Go shopping, get some fresh air. Then tonight talk to him calmly. Tell him it was a test, tell him about the promotion, and see how he reacts. Okay. Thanks, Alla. You're a real friend. Tatiana ended the call and slowly walked toward the supermarket, completely unaware that fate was preparing an even crueler blow. The grocery bags weighed heavily on her arms, but she barely felt their weight. All her thoughts were occupied with the upcoming conversation with her husband. How would she tell him the truth? How would Gina react when he learned about her promotion? And most importantly, was it even worth telling him after his reaction to the fake dismissal? The stairwell was quiet. Tatiana slowly climbed the stairs, mentally rehearsing the conversation. Gina, I need to confess something. It was a test. Actually, I got promoted. When she reached her apartment, she reached for her keys but suddenly froze. Her husband's voice was coming from behind the door. Loud. Excited. Completely different from his usual calm tone. Yes, Sveta, everything is going exactly according to plan, Gennady was saying, apparently speaking on the phone with his sister. She just told me she got fired. Can you imagine? She's trying to play games with me. Tatiana stood motionless, barely breathing as she listened to every word. No, of course she doesn't know that I already know about the promotion, her husband continued with a laugh. Viktor Andreevich told me a week ago. We go to the bathhouse together, remember? Tatiana's heart skipped a beat. Viktor Andreevich and Gina knew each other? How? Why had she never known about it? We came up with a simple plan, Gennady continued, lowering his voice, though she could still hear every word. Tanya will be appointed chief accountant. Officially, of course. Then, in about 3 months, Viktor will slip some fake documents in for her to sign. She won't even notice in the chaos of work. Then, boom. Fired for misconduct. With a record like that in her employment history, nobody will hire her anywhere. Tatiana felt nausea rise in her throat. Her legs turned weak, and she barely managed to stay upright by leaning against the wall. Don't worry so much, the man said irritably into the phone. Everything is under control. It's in Viktor's interest too. I'll pay him well. I never leave my debts unpaid. And finally, I'll get a stay-at-home wife. How much longer am I supposed to tolerate all these deadlines, budgets, and sleepless nights over reports? A normal family is what I need, not an exhausted career woman. The shopping bag slipped from Tatiana's weakened hands. A bottle of wine landed on the doormat with a dull thud. The apartment instantly fell silent. Sveta, wait a second. Someone's here. I'll call you back. Tatiana frantically grabbed the bags. Her heart was pounding in her throat. The door swung open, and her husband appeared in the doorway. Why are you standing outside the door? He asked with a frown. Did you lose your keys? No, my hands were just full. Tatiana struggled to keep the tremor out of her voice. I bought some groceries. Let me help. He took the bags. Who were you talking to? I thought I heard voices. The neighbor upstairs, Tatiana lied as she walked into the apartment on shaky legs. She was asking whether they were flooding our apartment. Oh, I see. Gina nodded. I'll set the table while you rest. Looks like you had a hard day. What a hypocrite you are, Tatiana thought as she looked at his concerned face. Inside, she was boiling with rage and hurt, yet somehow she managed to remain calm. Yes, I think I'll lie down for a while. I've got a headache. In the bedroom, Tatiana collapsed onto the bed. Her thoughts raced wildly. How could she have been so wrong about the man she had spent 8 years with? How could he betray her like this? And what was she supposed to do now? One thing she knew for certain. She could never trust Gina again. The man she loved and believed in had turned out to be a stranger, a ruthless manipulator willing to destroy her career for his own selfish desires. Tatiana took a deep breath, trying to regain control. Good decisions are never made in panic. She needed to think carefully and develop a clear plan. Tomorrow, she would speak with Viktor Andreevich privately, with no witnesses. She would find out whether he was truly conspiring with her husband or whether Gina had simply been bluffing to impress his sister. For now, she needed to keep acting. Like in a cheap detective story. Pretend she knew nothing. Pretend she believed every word her husband said. Smile. Discuss future plans. Even raise a toast to a new life. Darling, Gina called from the kitchen. Dinner's ready. I'm coming. Looking into the mirror, Tatiana silently addressed her reflection. Stay strong, Tanya. Tomorrow is a new day, and you'll show them exactly what a woman backed into a corner is capable of. She adjusted her hair, took a deep breath, and walked out of the bedroom with a smile on her face. The game had begun. The entire evening, Tatiana smiled and kept the conversation going as if nothing had happened. She even raised a glass to their new life while everything inside her trembled with anger and pain. Her husband's concern seemed so convincing that, had she not overheard that conversation, she probably would have believed every word. That night, she didn't sleep at all. She tossed and turned on the edge of the bed, carefully avoiding contact with her husband. By dawn, a plan had formed. Simple. Merciless. Just like the truth itself. "You're up early today," Gennady remarked as his wife got dressed. "Where are you going?" "I want to collect my employment records," Tatiana replied, carefully maintaining her miserable expression. "And some other documents." "That's the right thing to do. The sooner you close this chapter, the sooner you can start a new one." Tatiana barely stopped herself from throwing everything she knew in his face. But the time had not come yet. At the House of Fashion and Style, she was greeted warmly. A few colleagues had already heard about her promotion and came over to congratulate her. Tatiana responded with a forced smile and headed straight for the director's office. "Viktor Andreevich, may I speak with you for a minute?" "In private." The director raised his eyebrows in surprise but nodded. "Of course, Tatiana Sergeyevna. Come in." After closing the door behind her, she asked directly. "Do you know my husband? Gennady Viktorovich?" Viktor Andreevich was clearly caught off guard. He hesitated for a second, and Tatiana immediately knew she was on the right track. "Yes, we've met several times," he answered cautiously. "At the bathhouse, if I remember correctly," Tatiana said coldly. "And while you were there, you discussed how to frame me with fake documents so I could be fired for misconduct." Viktor Andreevich turned pale. "Tatiana Sergeyevna, there must be some misunderstanding. I heard everything with my own ears yesterday. I only have 2 questions for you. First, is it true, or was my husband simply pretending? Second, is my promotion real, or is it part of this dirty scheme?" The director looked at her silently for a long moment before letting out a heavy sigh. "Please, sit down." They talked for more than an hour. Viktor Andreevich explained that Gennady had indeed proposed such a scheme, but he had never intended to agree to it. Tatiana's promotion was genuine and fully deserved. He even apologized for not ending the inappropriate conversation with her husband immediately. "I value you highly as a professional," the director said at the end of their discussion. "And I'm sorry things turned out this way with your husband. The decision is yours, of course, but the position of chief accountant remains yours regardless." Tatiana left the office with a heavy heart but firm determination. She knew exactly what she had to do next. During lunch break, she called Gina. "Hi. Where are you having lunch today?" "At Meridian, as usual." "Why?" "Wait for me there. I'll be there in 30 minutes. We need to talk." The Meridian Cafe was located not far from Gennady's office. At lunchtime, it was always crowded. The perfect stage for the final act of the game. Tatiana entered the cafe and saw that her husband was already sitting at a table by the window with a bowl of soup and a salad in front of him. When he noticed her, he raised his eyebrows in surprise. "What happened? You look furious." Tatiana sat down across from him and placed her handbag on the table. "I have 2 pieces of news for you." "Why so formal?" The man laughed nervously after noticing that several customers at nearby tables had already started paying attention to them. "The first piece of news." Tatiana looked him straight in the eyes. "I was not fired. I was promoted to chief accountant. Imagine that. And not because of your dirty little plan, but because I actually earned it." Gennady's face went pale. He opened his mouth to say something, but Tatiana didn't let him speak. "The second piece of news." She paused. "I filed for divorce. The paperwork was submitted to the court this morning." Have you lost your mind? He exclaimed. Over what? Over what? Tatiana could barely control the tremble in her voice. Maybe because of your plan to destroy my career? Maybe because of your conspiracy with Viktor Andreevich? The fake documents? The plan to get me fired for misconduct? Do those phrases sound familiar? You were listening? I came home and accidentally overheard your conversation with Sveta. Every word. Every disgusting word. Darling, listen, I can explain. Her sharp interruption cut him off. Explain what? How you planned to turn me into a housewife against my will. How you wanted to take away the work I love. My chance to build a career? People at nearby tables were openly watching their argument now. Gennady was clearly uncomfortable with the attention. Let's not do this here, he said quietly. Let's go home and discuss everything calmly. There's nothing left to discuss. I've already packed my things and moved in with Alla. Temporarily, of course. Later I'll rent my own apartment. With the salary of a chief accountant, I can easily afford it. You can't just destroy everything like this. 8 years together. Does that mean nothing to you? It meant everything until yesterday. Tatiana pulled her hand away from his. You know, all these years I thought we were a real family. I thought you were proud of my achievements. I thought you supported me. But it turns out you were just waiting for the right moment to break me. I wanted what was best for you. Gina shouted. I wanted you to become a real woman and fulfill the role of a wife. You should stay at home and stand by the stove. There shouldn't be any job. This is my life, Tatiana replied quietly but firmly. And I will decide how to live it myself. Without your manipulation. Without your betrayal. Without your wishes, and certainly without your orders. She stood up from the table. I wish you luck finding a woman who'll be happy cooking borscht for you and washing your socks. As for me, I have somewhere to be. She smiled faintly. My work is waiting for me. Real work. Work that I love. Tatiana turned to leave, but suddenly stopped. Slowly, she turned back toward the table and looked directly into her husband's eyes. Then she deliberately grabbed the edge of the tablecloth and yanked it. The bowl of soup, the salad, and the cutlery crashed onto the floor, and all over Gina's trousers. People around them gasped. Someone even started applauding. Enjoy your meal, Tatiana said coldly. Then she turned around and walked proudly toward the exit. With her back straight and her head held high, she stepped out of the cafe and into a life where she alone would decide her future. And although her heart still felt heavy, Tatiana knew she would get through it. She always had. Her phone vibrated inside her handbag. A message had arrived from Viktor Andreevich. I'll be waiting for you tomorrow at 9 a.m. to sign the appointment order. I'm confident you'll do an excellent job in your new position. Tatiana smiled. Yes. She would succeed. At her job. And in her new life. This time, she was absolutely certain.